Welcome to the Box Score Sports Podcast.
Okay, let's go to the next game. The best game of the week. You know, I guess it depends if you like the results or not. But the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Buffalo Bills 32-29. So let's start with our great. Give me your great for this game.
I'm going to give it to Steve Spagnuolo, like Spagnolu, whatever. Just again, that corner blitz at the end of the game, killer call. you know, High risk, high reward, and it worked out that time. Just and again, it's not like the Chiefs' defense was awesome in this game. The Bills got 29 points. Josh Allen, they moved the ball. James Cook ran on them. So it's not one of those where you're like, wow, they just shut them down. But it's more of, and what the Chiefs have been really good at is just situationally. Right time, right call. And, you get fortunate sometimes. A guy drops a pass or someone doesn't see something. But in that case, it's gutsy to make that call when they hadn't run it before, to bust it out in that moment where if you give it up, like we kind of mentioned before, you may have just given up the game. That's one of those.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work and you're like, wait, why did you blitz the corner and you just gave a 20-yard play? But he called it and it worked, and that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. That's a good one. I'm gonna give it to Patrick Mahomes. Not just because of this game, just his career so far already in the NFL. It's just his game. He was 18 of 26. He did throw an interception, but he had a touchdown. No, he didn't throw an interception. I'm sorry, he did not. He had an 87.1 QBR, 245 yards passing. But here's some other stats for you as far as Patrick Mahomes goes. He's been a starter in the league for 7 years. Guess how many Super Bowls he has made in those 7 years?
Five.
Yeah, five out of seven. He's already has 17 wins in the playoffs. That's second most by any quarterback. 9 straight playoff wins. That's a record that he's tied for second. And 8 game-winning playoff drives, and that is tied for most right now of all the quarterbacks. So he's not. And here's the thing: he's not even 30 years old yet. So I don't know, man. I don't know if it's going to be impossible to beat him or whatever, but just he's been great, and he's off to a great start to his career, to say
Yeah,
the
and
least.
he's not the player before, but that's because they don't need to play that way. Like I
Yeah,
think Patrick Mahomes is the perfect example of, you'll get like, well, Jordan Love had the same stats as Patrick Mahomes, and you're like, awesome. Numbers don't tell every story. As
right.
much as I'm a numbers guy, I would be willing to admit, like, I don't care if someone threw for 5,500 yards and 62 touchdowns this year. If you ask me who the best quarterback is, it's going to hurt me. I'm still going to say Patrick Mahomes,
Yeah.
because there's no one else that I would want at the end of the game to either run and, you know, sprint right option. At least that's the old version of the play. They ran it twice. They ran it against the 49ers in the Super Bowl to get the 4th and 1. It works every time because he can run, and you have either Kelsey or the running back running alongside of him. But it's hard to go against Patrick Mahomes, knowing you got to score,
Yeah.
and if you don't, between him and Andy Reid and some of the play calls that they go with, because they have confidence in Patrick Mahomes to
Mhm.
just throw the stupid check down like he did in that to close out that game. Seems simple, but it's not, because it takes a lot. Because Patrick Mahomes, he could throw for the 45 touchdowns. They could air it out. He could chuck it all over the field, but he's a guy that wants to win, so he does what it takes.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like he has transformed his career from being that check down the field, the big stats, big play guy. And I mean, he was successful with it. I mean, you're still getting the Super Bowls, you're still kind of winning, but now he's just like, hey, I'm taking exactly what the defense is giving me, and it seemed like that what they were giving them were like the crossing routes yesterday with the Worthy and Schuster and those guys, and that's what he was taking. So Yeah, you got good, great for him. Okay, let's go to the good. What was your good for this game?
I'm just going to give it to James Cook for that
I,
touchdown run.
I
that
actually
that
have
was,
James Cook down too. That's great.
I mean, part of you wonders why he doesn't play more. Like, I mean, maybe he's not a great um, blitz picker upper, though he seemed to do it fine a couple of times. But he was like their outside of Josh Allen, he was like their best weapon,
Yeah.
and he's pretty quick. 6.5 yards a carry on that Chiefs defense is good. 3 catches, 49 yards. But that touchdown run was like, was that a run or a catch? No, it was a run, right?
It was a run. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Just to get the hand down and not the wrist and get over the goal line on, I think that was 4th down. That was just like incredible effort. So just for that alone, and I want to just give it to Josh Allen because he played a really good game too. But that
Yeah.
run alone, was one of those like, if the Bills win this game, this play is going down in history.
Yeah, no, he was so good. Only 13 carries. I do wonder if he was like dealing with something, like an injury or something like that, because I don't know how you walk away only giving that guy 13 carries when he had such a good game. And the game was never really out of hand. There was that moment where it was like, I think 21-10, where you felt like maybe it was getting out of hand, but I don't think that lasted long enough for them not to give Cook more carries, but it didn't like affect the game super negatively in any way. But it is surprising me. So I felt like with the 2 touchdowns, the 85 yards off of 13 carries, averaging 6.5 yards a carry, I just felt like Cook deserves the good in this game. So I'm with you on that.
Also,
Uh,
shout out to Mac Hollins, just resurrected, just showing up.
yeah, like what in the world? Where did he come from? I mean, I know we're like that's crazy to me. Okay, let's go to the bad. Give me your bad for this game.
My bad is just going to be like the Bills should just maybe just do the tush push like everyone else, or
Yeah.
maybe go to the right. Um, I know it worked technically. We'll get to that later. But just at some point you got to switch it up, and you can't be so predictable. I mean, like I know the Eagles are predictable the way they do it, but it's just effective. It's right up the middle. Everyone pushes. The delay to the left, which apparently, again, I don't follow the Bills like I was scouting the Bills, but apparently it's obvious that he always half heartbeat then goes to the left, and they just kept doing it, even though it was kind of apparent that the Chiefs knew he's just going to go to the left. So maybe clean that up a little bit, or just run James Cook or something. He seemed to be very effective.
Real quick, do you think they should like not have that play in the NFL, the tush push or whatever?
I would be fine if they took it out. Just not even because like the Eagles run it to perfection. Like I get the point of it. It just seems like one of those rules that you're like, all right, what are we doing
Right. It's
here?
not
We're just
entertaining to
allowed.
watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, here we go. Let's watch everyone push. And I wish they would kind of go back because, again, wasn't alive during this time, but I'll date myself. Like in the Ice Bowl where Bart Starr sneaks it in, and you see, I can't remember the running back. He has his hands up in the air, and everyone's like, "Were you calling touchdown?" He's like, "No, I had to put my hands up because you weren't allowed to push people into the end zone at the time." So he was just following, and he put his hands up so it was obvious he wasn't pushing his guy in. I kind of like that because we get through sections of games where you're like, wow, that's an 8 yard run. Like, well, it was a 4 yard run. And then everyone just pushed the pile.
Yeah.
Um, but that's just like nitpicking. I think they should clean that up a little so we don't just have offensive linemen carrying running backs for 7 yards and being like, what a run.
Yeah. Well, and it goes back to like what Bill Simmons was kind of talking about. It's like I think it was Bill Simmons about player safety. Basically, it's like I don't that seems like people get hurt in a position to get hurt more in those in the tush push and all that stuff, and you do it 10 times a game. But who knows? I was just kind of curious. I wouldn't mind them getting away from it because it would make it a little bit more like strategy how you're going to get the first down. And I think like James Cook averaged 6.5 yards a carry. I'm just surprised they didn't try to just run him up the middle or whatever. But anyway.
And you could just do quarterback sneak. Tom Brady was like,
Yeah,
what,
correct.
39 of 41? Like, Tom
Yeah,
Brady never got pushed. He just got the first down. So you don't need the tush push to get 1 yard.
right.
So
Agreed.
Wouldn't
Agreed.
wouldn't lose any sleep if they took it out.
Yeah, I agree. My bad is not it's more like I feel bad, and I'm gonna give my bad to Josh Allen because I just feel bad for the dude. He played pretty awesome in this game. He had that one throw, I think, to Mac Collins that was just an absolute dot, and I was like, that is such a good pass. But it's not just this game; it's his playoff career against Patrick Mahomes. Right now, 0 for 4, 0 and 4 against Patrick Mahomes. But in those games, it's crazy. I looked up this. I saw the stat, I should say. So he's a 65% completions. He averages 260 yards a game, 9 TDs, one turnover, 65 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. He lost the last 3 games against the Chiefs by a combined of 12 points. Other than the first one, he lost by 14. Now, funny enough, in the regular season, he is 4-1 against Patrick Mahomes. So I just give my bad to, like, I just feel bad for Josh Allen and the Bills fans. So that's my bad. It's just that this guy who's just amazing just cannot get over, which is probably the greatest quarterback coach combination in this era. I think that's without debate. Since Brady and Belichick, it's like you can't get over this one. It's like you can't beat Michael Jordan. It doesn't make you a fraud. It just means you can't beat Michael Jordan. And it's sort of the position right now Josh Allen and the Bills are. You just can't beat the Chiefs. It's not a bad position. You're not a bad team. You just can't beat the best. That's what it kind of comes down to.
Yep, it just comes down to those little things, and not that he didn't do it. The 13-second game, like that's not on Josh Allen. That's
No,
on, I don't know why you kick the ball out of bounds instead of just make the Chiefs waste 4 seconds returning a kick.
right.
It just, some of it comes down to coaching. And even in this game, some of the things you're like, well, that's the difference of having Andy Reid and having Sean McDermott, who's a fine coach, but some of those little things come back to haunt you, and you end
Yeah.
up losing these games by a few through, half the time, no fault to Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, let's go to our ugly then. Give me your ugly for this game.
So my ugly is just going to be, okay, said this before, generally not a ref complaining. Like, I get all the funny stuff and penalties. Like, I do hate when we do the slowdown of like, this could have been a holding, this could have been pass interference. Great. Like, it's easy when you freeze frame everything.
Mm-hmm.
Mine just going to be coming down to like that spot. Like, I literally don't know how that's not a first down. And I try to fight the like, oh, it's a conspiracy thing. And, when it comes to bad calls, like I said, bad calls happen throughout history. Jerry Rice fumbled. I'm a 49ers. Like, he obviously fumbled. I like to troll Packer fans. He did it. The Seahawks had a game where I think it was Neil O'Donnell in the 90s where he did like a quarterback sneak. He's a full yard short, but the ref thought the helmet was a football and gave him a touchdown. And you're like, cool. It happens.
Right.
But like with the Chiefs, and if you're a Chiefs fan, celebrate. Just ignore the rest of us that are going to complain.
Yes.
Because if it was the 49ers and this happened too, I'd find it funny too.
Yes.
I'm just saying, as a football fan, people reference the Patriots. Did the Patriots get calls? Absolutely. But the NFL literally tried to prevent the Patriots from winning, and the Patriots won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's true.
So with the Chiefs, the only frustration is it just seems stacked in a way that is disheartening. And the penalties in this game, it was like 6-5, wasn't a highly penalized game. Again, you'll find one where like, how did they not call holding on the Chiefs? Great. I have no complaints with like the penalties in this game. But to not call the first down, then go to review and literally can't, like, you can literally see the ball touches, I think it's the 40-yard line at the time. Those are just times when you go, I don't know what we're doing here. And if you're the Chiefs, celebrate, do your thing, troll the rest of us. It's fine. Just as a non-Chiefs/sports fan, to see it happen continually. We referenced the ref stuff before this game or other things where it was more like call blatant. It just, it's frustrating because you watch it and you're like, I don't even know what we're doing here.
Yeah.
We referenced the Warriors, like the Warriors one, because they were just so much flipping better than everyone else, and you weren't going to touch that team. This is just like, I don't know how you watch that and go, and you have the guy, the ref in the stand, like, yeah, I think he got it, and they're like, ruling on the field stands, first down, Kansas City. It is what it is. Just as a football fan, the Chiefs are good enough as it is. We don't need to do the extras.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit, but I just in general, but we'll talk about that fourth and one. So, because here's the thing, there was missed calls on both sides. And what I hate about sports Twitter is the losing team always comes on and like they'll post a bunch of pictures of, oh, look at this missed call and this missed call. But they don't look at the other side where like, I believe it was Brown got his face mask pulled by a Bills defender. That wasn't called. They called an false start when clearly Ed Oliver went off sides to, push the there was the fumble by Josh Allen that the Chiefs came out of the pile with the ball, but they're like, oh, first down Bills. Do you remember that where he like jumps over the pile and they thought it was a fumble, and then the Chiefs came out with the ball in the pile, but they're like, it's still the Bills' ball. I don't know what happened there, but that was like, so my point is calls like get missed on both sides. But what is weird to me, and this is where I agree with you, in the most important spot in these games. And real quick, the Bills did have a chance, 3:33 left in the game with 3 timeouts to go and either tie or win the game. So it's not like it prevented them the opportunity to win the game. But the 50-50 calls seem to go their way a lot. And this is what I was talking about with my friends, is like where you see these plays and you're like, I could see like these 50-50 balls kind of going either way calls, but it seems like the Chiefs get them all. And in that fourth and one, I get the idea like, oh, you can't really see the ball. So if you can't see the ball, you can't change it. But what I don't understand is the guy who had the best view of the ball, the ref that had the best view of the ball and the player, he had it past the 40, like or on the 40. The guy who saw Josh Allen's back was the guy's like, no, he didn't get there. And I don't understand that, but I think we also can use a little bit of logic, and like half his body, like half his torso went across the 40. The ball's somewhere there, even the tip of the ball. So I agree. I don't understand how that isn't a first down. And I do have a problem with that call in particular. It's like, I don't understand it, because you're telling me basically I don't know, like what I'm seeing here is you're telling fans that.
Yeah, and like we've discussed this, like the Lakers, where you see like the Lakers shoot so many more free throws than like
Yep.
other teams, and you're like, okay, do the Lakers have 2 good players that draw a lot of fouls? Sure. Outside of that, they don't, but somehow they shoot vast numbers. But in basketball, it's like a best of 7.
Right.
So if you're not as good, it's generally going to play out. And minus a few times in NBA history where you have like pretty blatant ref jobs, it's just like a general complaint. But football is like a 1-game thing.
Right.
So when you get it in football, it's more frustrating because you're like, this is 1 game. If this was a best of 3 series, you'd be like, oh, well, all right, we got 1 more game for a chance to do this.
Right.
And it plays out. So you're right. The 50-50 calls are the frustrating ones or high leverage calls are the ones that get to you. But again, if you're a Chiefs fan, live it up. I know, someone that was in one of my fantasy leagues that he moved back to Kansas City, I think. But he lived here for a while. Big Chiefs fan. He'll send me a text. It's fine. I get it. I would be in the same boat. I'm just saying, as a sports fan, I know dynasties are what sell, and you get people who hate watch, but it's disheartening to see because for the most part, the NFL hasn't been that way besides random plays. And if it's a random bad call, that's part of it. Like, as much as we would love to have everything ref perfect, you really wouldn't, because it would actually be like painful to watch a football game where
Right.
if you had AI calling every holding, you'd be like, oh, okay, we need to dial down
Right,
the
right,
level
correct.
here.
Yep.
Just in these moments, you hate to see that be part of it, and then it just becomes, all right, what are we doing?
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Just the 50-50, I don't know. Yeah. And it's because it's happening for one team is really ultimately. If it was like the Chiefs one year and the Ravens and the Bills, and the 50, it'd be like, oh man, the refs might have missed this call or whatever. We know that, but yeah, I'm with you on that. What did you think of that catch call?
That's another one where I'm like, I've watched football for a long time. I don't know how it's a catch. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it was an interception. Like I think challenge. I don't know if he was just challenging as a catch or challenging an interception. I don't think it was an interception, but the ball like clearly hits the ground, and you're going to say there's no movement. But when they like go to the ground, like I don't think anyone has possession. It's just two guys with their hand on it, and the ball hits the ground, and then I think it was where they ended up or with it or whatever. That was one where I'm like, I don't know. I've watched football a long time. I'm pretty sure that's an incomplete pass. No one had possession. It hit the ground. No doubt, two guys with their hand on the ball. The ground helped them keep the hand in their ball. That was one where I'm like, oh, like 9 times out of 10, an incomplete pass.
Yeah, yeah, it really should have been. I know there's that rule now. I think it's newer, like the ball can hit the ground, but as long as you like have control of it. And I think they kind of misapplied that rule in that situation. But like what I don't understand is somebody could catch the ball stumbling to the ground, get 2 feet down, but they're stumbling to the ground, and the ball hits the ground and pops out, and they're like, he didn't complete the process, but then like the ground can now help you make a catch like that. I just like it doesn't make sense to me either.
That's and timely enough. Like literally after that, I showed my son the Bert Emanuel play, which made that rule change in the NFC Championship game with the Buccaneers and the Rams, where I was like, "Here's why the rules changed." And you're
Yeah,
like, you
yep.
watch that, and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that was called an incomplete pass at the time." But that's just like another situation where you're like, okay, would that change the outcome of the game by itself? No, but you get these like random things, and you're like, I don't know how that's a catch. And also, they need to change the rule, not just for this game. For the love of God, change the rule that when the play clock hits zero, like in football, like in basketball, it's a penalty.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Because they
Like
play they
not
play
the we
with that one
gotta.
too much. Yeah, yeah. They
Yeah,
play with that one too much though. It's just they just don't they're not consistent with it. So if it hits zero, you call it, then at least you can be consistent with it. You can't be consistent if you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna look down," and then call it. You know what I'm saying? Like you just can't be consistent with
yeah.
that.
And not just to the Chiefs. Anytime when teams do
Right,
this at the
correct.
in the 2 minute warning one specifically in this game, where you're like, okay, if you want to tell me live action, like the ref is looking at the ball or looking at the clock and then it hits zero and he looks down and in that half second the ball is snapped. But in this case, we literally don't have to look at the ball. They're not even standing by the ball, so we can be like, the clock hit zero and they didn't snap. Penalty or timeout. Not just for the Chiefs. I've seen that in other games where it's close like that. Just make it if the ball's in the hand. In the center's hand when it hits zero, it's a penalty. We
Right.
can speed up the game that 1 second.
I agree 100%. The other thing I just will mention too, like the Bills, there was 6 or 7 possible turnovers by the Bills that they kind of got fortunate. 5 fumbles that they had that they recovered all of them. And then that that first drive should have at least he threw the ball twice, should have been intercepted twice, but that would only count as one turnover. And then 5 other fumbles that the Bills recovered. So, I mean, as much as we can look at that 4th and 1 play, we can also be like, man, the Bills were kind of fortunate that that game was in their hands with 3 minutes and 33 seconds and 3 timeouts left, and they just didn't get to execute. And Kincaid had a chance to catch that ball to possibly, to extend that drive. So, yeah. Okay. Anything else on this game?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I've exhausted it all.
Yeah, I'm with you. But congratulations, begrudgingly. Thanks so much for watching this clip of the Box Score Sports Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter or X. And we'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.